Yo, what's going on, guys? Tierlist here. Welcome back to another Brawl Stars video. Today, we're going to be doing one of my requested videos, and that was just to rank all 75 brawlers from F to S. And obviously, I'm not a big fan of doing this video, and there's a couple reasons why. One, I'm not the best tier list guy because I'm a solo showdown main. And two, every pro player does this, so there's literally no purpose of me. Kairos literally just did this one like a week ago, so it's going to be very similar to his, but there's a couple that I was iffy about on Kairos' list, but his is ranked by several pro players. This is my own ranking, so I don't care if you give me hate because it's my list, and it's going to be very similar to brawlers like people like Spin and Kairos, because those are the two main Brawl Stars YouTubers I watch. They always do tier lists all the time, but yeah. And I know before we get into the ranking, I did want to say I want to talk about the video suggestions. So I get a lot of them, and I try to do as many as possible, but I can't guarantee I can do all of them. I'm getting a couple in my Discord server. Don't join it; it's a dead server. A lot in the comments, as you can see. I had the legendary video I just did and the mythic one were both video suggestions, and obviously a lot of people are like, let's do the epic skins. The problem with doing epic skins is there's a lot of them, a lot of exclusives. So if I can, I'm going to try and find a tier list of them. Right now I have not been able to find one. I might make my own, but I'm probably going to miss some skins. So that's the problem with doing the epic skins. Like, I missed 2 skins in the mythic ones. I missed Hoo Hoo Chili and White Wolf Leon because they were exclusive and I forgot about them. And then the legendary ones, I missed both of the Frank, the Blue King and the Red King Frank. I missed both of those. So with the epic ones, I'm trying to find a tier list because, one, if I rank it individually, it's going to take forever. 2, I don't want to make an extremely long video. I know a lot of people don't probably really care about longer-ish videos, but nobody wants to watch me blabber for an hour like I'm doing right now. So without further ado, thank you guys for 1,200 subscribers, by the way. Let's get into the ranking. Starting off with Shelly. So Shelly has a hypercharge, obviously, and she's still one of the better brawlers in the game. I don't think she's qualified for S tier anymore, but she's definitely still in the A tier, at least in my opinion. For Nita I feel like is a decent brawler. I don't see her that much, but that's I'm Power League Mythic 2 right now. I almost got to Mythic 3, but I just keep getting absolute trash cans of teammates, and I have to hard carry, and I can't hard carry the game. But Nita, she's pretty good. I won't say she's great, but she's still a good brawler. I put her in the B tier. You might even argue A tier. Next up, we have Colt, and Colt got a recent buff to his reload speed, which in my opinion, I don't think was needed, but Colt, he's been on the weaker side for a long time now. I feel like this buff has really pushed him up into the meta. I'm going to put him in the A tier. I'm going to give him some respect. Next up, we have Bull, and Bull has a hypercharge, but it's not the greatest hypercharge. It's a good hypercharge, don't get me wrong, but okay, I need to stop saying don't get me wrong, because I'm getting called out for saying that. But overall, I feel like he's dropping in the meta. I think he's still in the B tier because he has a hypercharge. But other than that, he's falling. He might even be C tier. Next up, we have Brock. And Brock is Colt's like counterpartner. But the thing about Brock is he's getting worse in the meta because Colt is getting better. And then when Colt gets better, Brock gets worse and vice versa. Because they both have very similar mechanics. Like they both serve the same purpose. So Brock, he's still a good brawler, but he's definitely going in the B tier. Next up, we have Primo, and Primo is a tank that does not have a hypercharge, and this is really screwing him over in the meta. He's not good at all. I never see him, and anytime he's picked, he just gets destroyed. He's D tier. Next, we have Barley, and Barley's still one of the best throwers. Now, he's not very good in this meta because of certain brawlers like Miko and Kit who just completely destroy him. So for that reason, I'm putting him in the B tier. Otherwise, he would probably be A tier. Next up, we have Poco, and Poco is just not good right now. Simply because of Kit, because Kit literally can just sit on a tank and forever heal them. Poco is suffering in the meta, and that's why he's going in the D tier as well. I just don't ever see this brawler. It might be a little harsh D tier, but he's no higher than C. Next up, we have Rosa, and Rosa is one of the best, if not the best tank in the game right now. I think there's no question. She has a hypercharge, but even without the hypercharge, she still is really good because she has the tank trait, a really strong super, and combines so well with Kit. She's still in the A tier. I don't think she's S tier because of the nerf, but she's still really strong. Next up, we have Jessie, and Jessie is okay. She has a hypercharge, but it is hard to constantly hit her shots because they're not very quick, but she's going in the B tier. Next up, we have Dynamite, and nobody talks about how broken his hypercharge is. It honestly could deserve S+. 7,800 damage with the Demolition Star power is a joke. That's insane, and his super's not that hard to hit, but if you miss it, oh, don't worry. He's got a bunch of Dynamites that explode around it, which deal a lot of damage as well. I would say S tier if possible, but I'm putting him in the A tier just because of Kit, because Kit is just everywhere right now, and you can't do anything with him. And also Miko, who just destroyed Dynamite. Next up, we have Tick, and Tick's another thrower, but Tick is kind of struggling as well. He's okay in game modes like Bounty and Knockout still, which are his best modes, but people are playing him in Hot Zone, Brawl Ball, and I don't know why. He's not good in those modes. He's okay on some Hot Zone maps if you're going against randoms, but other than that, he's still a B tier, but not the greatest. 8-Bit is very strong. I actually had a very clean 1v3 with him in Knockout where I had the absolute worst Nani on my team in history, but I was just hard carrying, and I also had a Gene who just wasn't good either. 8-Bit is slow, which makes him super easy to hit, but he's a lot of HP, and if you get that turret down and the enemy team can't take it down, you're in trouble because 8-Bit with the booster star power and his teammates just hit like a truck, and it's impossible. He's A tier. Next we have Rico, and I grinded out the final boss Rico skin on the first day of the season, which was not very smart of me to do. But Rico, he's not just I don't really ever see him, even on maps like Hard Rock Mine, where he's just so good. I don't even know if that map's in rotation anymore, but I just don't see this brawler that much. But he's still B tier. Next up, we have Daryl, another tank without a hypercharge that I just never see used at all. He's just not good at all. He's going in the D tier. Next up, we have Penny, and this is another brawler I just never see whatsoever. She's not that great either. It's just, I don't know. Penny, she can be okay in certain maps, but her damage is just, she lacks the damage, and she used to be good with the Salty Barrel, but there's just too much aggro that she can't deal with, and once she runs out of those gadgets, she's just screwed. So she's also going in the D tier. Carl is just not good at all in this meta. He's really fallen off ever since his nerf. And he just keeps getting worse and worse because there's just simply too many counters to him. Brawlers like Kit can just cancel out his super. Brawlers like Maisie just cancel out his super. You can't do anything with Carl at this meta. And then he's going to go in the C tier because there's still some underrated scenarios where you still can use him, but you just never really get to see that chance because one counter to Carl just makes him completely terrible. Next up, we have Jackie, and Jackie's another tank that has a very good, strong hypercharge, and she benefits a lot from it. Without her hypercharge, she's one of the worst brawlers in the game. With the hypercharge, though, she can easily team wipe. And just because the hypercharge, it's really not that hard to get. She's A tier. Next, we have Gus, and Gus is an interesting brawler. He just fell off because of brawlers like Nani and Piper were getting their damage buffs. Gus just doesn't deal enough damage anymore, and that's the reason he's going in the C tier. He's still a decent brawler if a lot of the sharpshooters that deal high DPS are banned out, but that's just never the case sometimes, especially with this aggressive meta. Next up, we have Bo, and this is easy S tier. His damage buff was way too high. He hits like a bulldozer. If you get into his range and he hits you 3 times, 4,200 damage gone off your health. It's so much damage. His shots are not that hard to hit either. He's S tier, no debate here. Next up, we have Ems, and this is another brawler I just don't see anymore. The last time, I have not seen an Ems in a very long time. I'm not saying she's a bad brawler, but I just don't see her anymore, and it's kind of unusual because Ems is one of my favorite brawlers. I don't even play her anymore because Ems is kind of a tank counter, and she's a defensive brawler in Heist, but the Heist maps aren't really good. It's bridged too far for Power League rotation, and then also Riverbed, which is also a longer range map. She's pretty good on Tornado Ring, but that's an awkward map to play. So I'm putting her in the B tier. She's like a very low B tier. Next up, we have Stu, and Stu is very strong. He's very good on maps like Open Zone, where he can just put that Speed Zone gadget behind that L wall, and he can just go crazy. He's still a really strong brawler, and if you know how to play Stu, you know you're going to carry your team with the Gas Heal star power. But also, Zero Drag is also a really good star power to counter those aggro picks. So he's going A tier. Piper. Piper deals a lot of damage. She's the golden pick on majority of the open maps. Like a lot of the Power League rotation really favors long range, and Piper really benefits from that. I don't think she's S tier worthy because she still can be countered by anything aggro unless she has the auto aimer gadget. But once she runs out, she just has to super away. And she's still A tier though, maybe S tier. She's between the A and the S tier. Next up, we have Pam, and Pam is kind of a hit or miss. Her heal is insane, but at the same time, I don't see her a crazy amount. And anytime I do, I just tend to wipe the floor against a Pam. But I think she's still a decent brawler, so I'll put her in the B tier. Next up, we have Frank the Tank, and I think there's no debate here. This brawler is a bottom 3 brawler in the game. Bottom 2, there's only one worse brawler. We'll get to him later, and I'm sure you can guess. But Frank, never used. Anytime he's used, he's a walking super feeder. He literally is just terrible. And the brawler right after her, BB. Oh, also F tier. BB is so bad. BB has not been meta for a while, and I don't know what killed her. But she used to be very meta back when batting stance gave her 30% shield. But now she's just terrible. Like, she has a very bad gadget. Her other gadget's actually really good. But I just never see this brawler picked. It's just, she's unplayable. Next up we have B, and B is a good brawler. She's a good counter to the tankier options like Rosa and Jackie, who are up in the A tier. But there's not a crazy amount of tanks. And she doesn't have the DPS to deal with the aggros like Leon, who is just everywhere in the meta right now. So I'm going to put her up in the B tier. Now we have my favorite brawler, Nani, who I don't want to be biased to, but she's easily one of the strongest brawlers in the game. Her damage is unbelievable. And if you can hit shots, you're just going to shred their opponent. Given, though, she did get a health nerf and a supercharge rate nerf, which did drop her down to the A tier in my opinion. But she's still one of the best brawlers in the game, no question. Next up, we have Edgar, and Edgar sucks unless you have his hypercharge. His hypercharge is so broken. It's just insane. Once you get it, you can easily team wipe because you can just super, and with the damage buff, he heals more. With the shield buff, he takes less damage. Way harder to kill him. And he can just jump, 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 jump. It's an endless cycle. But it's only when you have his hypercharge, which you almost only get one time per game. But that one time can be crucial, and that's why he's in the A tier. Next up, we have Griff, and Griff is another brawler I just don't ever see at all. And it's just, the thing is, he has the piggy bank gadget, but there's brawlers like Colt, who is actually a really good brawler. He's got his super, and he's got the gadget that just allows to open up the map a lot easier. And Griff is more of a tank counter. He can't really deal with the longer range brawlers. His business resilience star power is pretty good, but I don't see him. C tier. Next up, we have Grom, another thrower that just is suffering a bit in this aggro meta because of brawlers like Kit, who jump on him, GG. Brawlers like Leon, just delete him once they get their super. Brawlers like Miko, I'm just going to jump over a wall. Nothing you can do. He's still a good thrower, so he's B tier. A lot of the throwers are probably going to be B tier, maybe even C tier. Next up, we have Bonnie, and I don't really see Bonnie anymore. It's kind of surprising because Bonnie is not a bad brawler, but I just don't see her as much as I used to. That projectile speed nerf she got a while ago definitely hurt her. It's not as easy to hit shots anymore, but she's still B tier. Next up, we have Gale, and Gale is one of the more underrated brawlers in my opinion. Anytime I go against a Gale or I have a Gale on my team, the Gale seems to win 100% of the time. Very good counter to the hypercharge. Very good counter to the Fang hypercharge and the Edgar hypercharge. If an Edgar hypercharge comes on you, you can just use the Twister gadget or just super him away, and Edgar can't really do anything, which is one of the better counters that I feel like nobody talks about, is Gale can just completely destroy any aggro hypercharge. Leon, oh, I'm just going to push you away with my super. Now, you have to have fast reaction time, but if you're a pro player, you're going to have a fast reaction time. And honestly, I'm going to put him in the A tier. I feel like nobody respects the Gale pick. And anytime, like I said, anytime Gale is on a team or the enemy team, they seem to win almost 100% of the time. Next up, we have Colette. And Colette with hypercharge is so goddamn annoying. It does not take long to get a Colette hypercharge. One hypercharge on the heist, 25% of your damage gone. If you hit a full clip with her hypercharge, oh, you get it back. You get another super, and you can just infinitely change supers if you're skilled and can hit shots. She just destroys any tank. She is also a really good counter to brawlers like 8-Bit, who have a lot of HP. So for me, I think she still has to be in the S tier because you cannot ignore her hypercharge. It's so goddamn annoying. Next up, we have Belle, and Belle is just one of those versatile brawlers that anytime I feel like I go against, the Belle will hard carry, because Belle's shots are not that hard to hit, and if your opponents are not skilled, they will group up, and that bounce shot will get provided, and then she also gets like a permanent 20% shield because of the positive feedback star power. Even if you hit a shot, it don't have to bounce, you still get a shield, so Belle, she's still A tier. Like, she ain't going anywhere. Next up, we have Ash. Oh, poor Ash. Poor Ash is not good in this meta. There's just too many counters to him. Rosa, Jackie, Maisie. there's just a lot of the top meta brawlers just destroy Ash. And Ash, I'm not saying he's bad. Oh my god, stop saying that. I need to stop saying that. He's not a bad brawler overall. Just in this meta, it just does not favor him, and he's D tier. I don't think he needs a buff. I think he needs a hypercharge to make him meta again, but I just think the meta just counters him too hard. Next up, we have Lola, and this is a brawler I just don't ever see, which is unfortunate because Lola's actually a good brawler. And anytime I do see her, she actually tends to do very well. But I feel like the ego just tends to die very quickly in this very aggro meta. But she's still a B tier brawler. Next up, we have Sam, and Sam is also another brawler that just straight up does not do well in this meta, and it's just because it's just too many knockback. You can easily just get away from his super. Brawlers like Maisie, you're done. He's not a good counter to his fellow tanks. Once Rosa gets a shield, Sam can't do anything. Brawlers like Jack, you can just delete him with the counter crush star power. Shelly can just delete him anytime he gets close. And there's a lot of brawlers with knockbacks like Gale, Nani, Piper, even Dynamite with his super can knock him away, or you can get the stun off. Sam is not good in this meta. He's a D tier. Next up, we have Mandy, and Mandy is one of those pretty good brawlers if her fellow sharpshooters are banned out, but she's just too vulnerable to anything aggressive, like Leon, Kit, anything that will jump onto a Mandy, you're screwed, because Mandy just doesn't have the burst rate to deal with those brawlers, and she's still B tier though. Next up, we have Maisie, and Maisie is everywhere in this meta. Her hypercharge is extremely broken, and it needs to get completely nerfed ASAP, because it's just so easy to get the hypercharge, and it's so easy to team wipe with that damage. It's unfair, S tier. Next up, we have Hank, and Hank the Fish Tank is an absolute F tier, because this brawler just died. The biggest problem with Hank is he needs to heal while he charges his bubble. A long time ago, Supercell, one of the Supercell developers compared Hank to Amber, which first of all makes zero sense. They have nothing in common. Amber has constant DPS. Hank has a charge effect. That's not DPS. Why can't he not heal when he charges his bubble? He's not doing any DPS. He's letting the enemies heal while he doesn't heal. That doesn't make any sense. You cannot compare a brawler like Hank to a brawler like Amber when they literally have nothing in common. So Hank has to get that trait back, because that makes no sense. That's why he's F tier. You can add a lot of buffs to him, but if he cannot heal while he's charging his bubble, he's in trouble, because he's wasting precious time to try and get a full charge attack. Because his attack, when he tries to auto aim, deals a tiny bit of damage, 1,000, and has no range, and he can't spam it. So Hank, he needs to heal while he charges his bubble. You cannot compare Hank to Amber. They have nothing in common. Next up, we have Pearl, and Pearl is frustrating. I can't stand going against Pearl, because once she charges her heat, you cannot do anything except say your prayers if she gets right next to you, because her damage is absurd. She deals 5,000 plus damage, I believe, when she's fully heated. It's just not fair. But the only thing is, she has to get heated first. That's why she's so good in Bounty and Knockout, and she's kind of struggling in other modes. I would like to see her get reworked, and maybe the heat deal less damage, but more damage at base level. That way she just doesn't rely on the heat. She's definitely in the A tier, in my opinion. Arguably S tier. Next up, we have Larry and Larry. They are not out yet, but I think they're going to be insanely broken, and here's why. First of all, his shots don't seem that hard to hit, and if you hit the first one, you're almost going to hit the second one because it explodes in a larger radius. His super seems game-changing with that star power, where anytime Larry gets a hit, Larry reloads an ammo. You can just spam shots left and right, and he also has the gadget that gives him the shotgun, so anything aggro, he is just going to get deleted because he can switch gadgets and just delete them. For me, I don't know. This is a predetermined ranking. I think they're going to be S tier. I just think their mechanics are mechanically broken, and also they have so much HP for a thrower. Why do they have 6,100 HP? I don't know. I think this brawler is going to be insanely broken. Not as broken as Kit, but definitely S tier. Next up, we have Mortis, and Mortis is a very underrated brawler in my opinion. He actually combines with Kit so well, because he can dash around while he's being healed, and then he can also heal himself with the super. I really think that's an underrated combo. Mortis by himself, though, is still vulnerable, but can be very good. So he's B tier, arguably A tier. Next up, we have Tara, and Tara's really dropped from the meta. I don't see her that much anymore. She's still a good carry brawler with her super, if you get her super. That's the issue. I still think she's B tier worthy, but a lot of brawlers can just pierce through her gadget. Next up, we have Jean, and Jean's an awkward brawler to rank because Jean can be good if you hit a super, but a lot of things tank his super, and that's the problem with Jean because Jean just doesn't deal the crazy amount of damage. He's got the range and he's got the HP, but his reload speed is so slow that brawlers like Charlie with her gadget, Tara with her gadget, and any kind of spawnable, Mr. P, the Meg gadget, any of that can just tank a Jean pull or 3 Jean attacks. And Jean's reload speed is way too slow to compete with that. He's still B tier brawler, but he's just not that great in my opinion. Next up we have Max. I never see Max. She's going to go in the B tier because in pro play, she's actually used quite a bit. I don't see Max very often. I'm a terrible Max myself, but she's okay. Next up, we have Mr. P, and Mr. P is he's okay. Like, he's not by any means strong, but he's good. He knows who to counter. Counters brawlers like Jean. He counters those single shot brawlers still like Piper. He's still a good counter to them, but overall, he's not getting crazy because of just aggro picks. Mortis, Leon, Kit, any brawler that jumps onto him, you're dead. He is going B tier. Next up, we have Sprout. And Sprout, I was playing Ring of Fire, and the enemy team picked last pick Sprout. He went 11-0. He kept ricocheting his shot off the wall, and it kept hitting literally all of us. I feel like the guy was exploiting a freaking gadget bug with him, because Sprout would always have 2 supers down at the same time. But it was insane. Sprout, though, he struggles in a meta like this because of all the aggro, but he can somewhat fight him off with his super. But he's going to be B tier, maybe even A tier. Next up, we have Byron, and Byron is not good. Anytime I see him, he loses almost every match. He can't do anything against aggro. He does have the gadget to help him out a little bit against aggro, and his super is pretty strong. But it's just his damage is too weak, in my opinion. It's not very great. I'm putting him D tier. Nah, put him C tier. I think D tier is a little too harsh. Next up, we have Squeak, and Squeak's still a really good brawler. He's got the residue gadget, which is still just mechanically broken because it's a freaking choke point for 6 seconds. And his super, it's okay. His super's not the great power. His damage is very strong, too, with the chain reaction star power. I think he's still A tier worthy because, Jesus, that gadget. Next, we have Lou, and Lou did get a nerf to his supercharge rate, but let's be real, that didn't really do much. It definitely hurt him a little bit in terms of how fast he can cycle his super, but his hypercharge is still easily broken, and there's no question he's still S tier. Next up, we have Colonel Ruffs, and Colonel Ruffs he's okay. I don't see him ever, but I think that's just because he's just not a fan favorite brawler, which is I understand that. Like, you can't. This is a very boring brawler to play because he's a support brawler, and I get it. But he's very good in the right hands, so I will put him B tier. I don't think he's A tier because he's not the greatest against aggro, and he's also not very good against tanks. Next is Buzz, and Buzz, man, is just not good at all. He's D tier. I don't think he's F tier because he can be a somewhat decent last pick to counter certain archetypes. But just like brawlers, like Frank, it's just too easy to cancel out his super. Like Piper gadget, easy cancel out. Maisie, one of the best brawlers in the game, cancels out. Colette super, cancels out. Lou freeze, cancels out. Like, you can't. Gale cancels out. Literally everything cancels out Buzz. It's just not fair for Buzz at the moment. Next, we have Fang, and he's got to be S tier because even though his hypercharge did get a massive nerf, and I don't think it's nearly as broken as it used to, one hypercharge Fang is an easy team wipe 100% of the time, and Fang, he still has great team wipe potential overall. Even without the hypercharge, he's still A tier, but the hypercharge definitely gives him the S tier vibes. I don't think the hypercharge is insanely broken, like I said, but it's still easily a top 3 hypercharge. Next up, we have Eve, and this brawler is so frustrating to go against. A lot of maps in the Power League rotation really favor her because of the water, and her damage is low-key crazy. And then her super, if you don't destroy it and you don't have a piercing shot, you're in trouble with the quadruple mythic gear. So, A tier. Next up, we have Janna, and Janna is an interesting brawler because I do see her picked a lot now, especially with her 2 recent buffs. But most of the time, she does lose, and it's unfortunate, because Janna is one of my favorite brawlers. If you guys don't know, you guys know I simp for Janna, and I gotta give her the respect. but she's still not the greatest, but she definitely has risen up, so I'll give her the B tier. Next up, we have Otis, and Otis is one of the better counters to a lot of the hyperchargers. He's not the best counter. There's two brawlers that are definitely better at doing a better job at countering a hypercharge. But he does counter Fang. He's probably the best counter to Fang besides Charlie. But overall, he's just a well-rounded brawler. Like he's like an average B tier. Next up, we have Buster, and Buster got a nerf to the slow-mo replay gadget. It definitely hurt him because now you can't just brainlessly go aggro after you pull the gadget in. And then also, if you clip them around a wall and they get pinched by the wall, they have time to go away. Now, I think they should rechange the name because it's slow-mo replay. It doesn't give a slow effect anymore. But Buster definitely dropped. I will give him the A tier credit, even though I almost never see him. But anytime I do see him, he still tends to win a lot, even though that gadget nerf wasn't crazy big. But the main thing is his damage and his super is still very strong. Next up, we have Gray, and Gray is A or S for me. Gray has one of the best gadgets in Game & Walking Cane, a mechanically broken super where he can just completely teleport any kind of tank into a very specific area, non-stop, on cheesy strategies, but also he's a low-key, very strong assassin because he can just super and confirm a kill almost every time as long as there's not multiple enemies. So he's still A tier for me. Next up, we have RT, and RT is a tough one to rank because he's really good in bounty and knockout, but that's really the only modes I see him in. His super is really strong at countering anything aggro, but the delay definitely hurts him a decent amount. He's still A tier without a doubt. That hacks gadget is so frustrating if you're below the 1400 threshold, but yeah. Next up, we have Willow, and Willow is another thrower that kind of struggles in this meta, but the thing about Willow is she has a super to defend herself, unlike a lot of the other throwers. But so Willow, she actually deals a very impressive amount of damage for a thrower. I don't think anybody talks about her. Her damage, if you hit, that's 2,400 damage guaranteed right there. And then her super can almost confirm a goal in Brawl Ball if you get it. That's why she's very strong in Brawl Ball. But she's also good in other game modes. So I'll give her A tier because she's probably one of the better throwers besides Dynamite. Next up, we have Trash Can. I don't think we need to talk about this brawler. This is one of the worst brawlers in Brawl Stars history. He needs the tank trait. That's the first thing about Doug, is he needs the tank trait. If he still sucks, he needs a complete rework, because I don't know how to change his brawler without making him mechanically broken, because he has a game-changing super. Next up, we have Chuck, and Chuck is an interesting one to rank, because he is, in my opinion, a higher skill cap brawler. I know a lot of people didn't agree with that, because, oh, you can just spam his super. You have to get the post down in the correct way, because if you mess up one post, you're screwed. You can't do anything. But other than that, he does take lackluster skill and heist. That's definitely his best game mode. Once he gets a post on the safe, it's GG. But overall, he's not the greatest in any other game mode, because his range is limited. His projectile speed is actually quite slow. His reload speed is also pretty slow. He's going to be in the B tier, in my opinion. Next up, we have Charlie, and Charlie is still very strong. I don't know, I'm debating A or S tier. She still has the gadget, which is still way too strong. Her super is mechanically broken. It counters some of the best brawlers in the game. Fang, Charlie is one of the best counters. That gadget is crucial. If Fang gets super, Charlie just supers back. Fang is done. You also have brawlers that are also very strong in Kit, where if Kit jumps off or Charlie can cocoon the brawler that Kit is on, and then Kit is vulnerable. So I'm going to still give Charlie the S tier credit, because she's used a lot, and I use her a lot in Power League, and I win with her majority of the time. Next up is one of the newer brawlers in Miko, and Miko also is S tier. He's very strong. His first star power is, I think, the main reason why he's so strong, because it gives him that extra ammo. But once Miko gets onto a brawler that he can just auto aim nonstop, they're gonna die, because he can just keep jumping over and over. It's too hard to kill him. Once he gets its super, he can just heal, jump back down, kill another brawler. It's just really hard to kill a Miko it does take some skill to play him though. So if you got to play him right. Next up, we have Spike, and Spike has a really good hypercharge, but he's just squishy overall, and he depends on comp, because any brawler that's aggro can kind of kill him out. He has the DPS to deal with them. He's just squishy, and that's the main problem with Spike. He has very little HP. He's still going to be in the A tier, though. Next up, we have Crow, and he's got a decent hypercharge. It just takes way too long to get. If he gets his hypercharge on the high safe, you lose because it's 50 plus damage guaranteed, or percent damage. It's my fault. But like I said, it takes forever. He has very low HP, and he just has not the craziest amount of range. But he's still, in my opinion, A tier, but just not S tier. Next up, we have Leon. Leon's hypercharge is actually insanely strong. It's crazy because you can super, then activate your hypercharge, and then you'll never become visible because of the mythic gear giving him 8 seconds. His damage with the hypercharge active is crazy, and it doesn't take that long to get it because Leon's super overall doesn't take that long. Leon right now, he is an S tier brawler. Next up, we have Sandy. And Sandy's really good. He's not broken because he does not have a hypercharge, but he's definitely going in the A tier because his super takes 6 hits. One super can completely wipe out an area with the Root Sand Star power and just make it hard for the enemies to push up. Next up, we have Amber, and Amber, in my opinion, got a random damage buff. I don't think she needed one, and she does so much damage. It's unbelievable. I don't think she's S tier, but she's going to be in the A tier for me because her damage is unbelievable. Next up is Meg, and Meg is very strong in bounty/knockout right now because it just takes forever to kill her. The main problem though is it's hard to deal consistent damage with Meg because her shots they're pretty easy to dodge, but she always can hit 1, 2, or 3. Her super deals a decent amount of damage, and then once you take her out of her mech form, you got to deal with her main form. And you have the shield, and you also have the knockback star power with anything aggro, which I feel like Meg is most susceptible to unless she has her super. But she's B tier for now. Next up we have Surge, and Surge is just not good. Stop playing this brawler. He's just not good. If you do not give him his levels, he just cannot do anything. And a lot of the maps right now are so open, and Surge can never get ranked up. I'm going to put him C tier because once he ranks up, he is a very strong brawler. He has to rank up though, and it's just very hard to do that. Next up is Chester, and Chester is not good. He still is struggling hard. He has the damage to deal with the aggro, but he just has a slow reload speed, and his supers overall aren't that great anymore. The Sun super is still pretty strong. The bomb one's okay. The slowing one is pretty mid overall. The radius is pretty small. The poison one is okay, but again, he's mainly a tank counter, and tanks are not that great besides Jackie and Rosa mainly, and Buster too. So he's C tier. Next up we have Cordelius, and Cordelius is by far the best counter to hypercharge because he could just put the brawler that's hypercharged in the Shadow Realm. He's S tier. Like, there's no question. And then the final brawler, I think nobody needs to talk about how unbelievably broken Kit is. Like, the fact that he did not get emergency nerf the day he was released is absolutely mind-blowing to me because he's arguably the most broken brawler put into the game. I think he's that broken because the healing he gives to the teammate he lands on is way, way, way too much. And the fact that Kit takes no damage, and then once Kit comes off, he can either super onto a player or another teammate and just do the same process over and over. This brawler was untested. There's no denying it. He might be the most broken brawler ever put into the game. It is the game right now. If you go against a Kit, just say your prayers because you ain't winning. This brawler is way too broken. He's banned in every single Power League game. I have not played a single game where Kit has not been banned. And any time, I think one game he was not banned, which was a mistake on our team because the enemy team had first pick. Well, guess who they picked first? Kit. And literally, the game was over in an instant because this brawler is just so broken. This brawler is illegal. Like, there's no way he was tested. I'm sorry, Supercell. If you tested this brawler, you need to fire some employees because my goodness, this brawler is insanely broken. But that's gonna be it for this video. One more quick note: if the Epic Brawlers is not posted tomorrow, which is going to be Monday, because this video will be uploaded on Sunday. I'm sorry. I know you guys wanted it, but it's just too much time because there's so many, and I don't want to blabber for an hour. But hope you guys enjoyed this one. I'll see you in the next one.